Hi, and welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people as the traditional owners and true sovereigns of the land I am meeting you from. And I would like to pay my respects to elders from all nations here this evening and to their elders past, present, and emerging. My name's Ali. I am an independent facilitator from RPS, and I'm here tonight to host the information session between you and the VPA on the Broadmeadows Activity Centre. So, before we get going, just a few little housekeeping bits. So, this session will be recorded, so those who couldn't attend can go back and watch, or if you want to go over the presentation again. You won't be identifiable in the recording due to the webinar setup through Zoom. You'll notice your cameras and mics are all set to off. The chat function is also disabled. You will be able to interact through the Q&A function to the bottom right of your screen. So if you do have a question throughout the session, please pop it in there and we'll come to it after the presentation portion of the session. And just on the Q&A function, we'd like you to use upvoting. So if there is a question you see in there that you think is important, make sure you upvote it so we can get through our top questions first. And just a reminder to keep questions and comments kind and respectful. And if you need captions, you can turn them on with the bottom toolbar. So, our agenda for tonight, we have the VPA here to present to you on their draft plans for Broadmeadows. So, we'll tell you a little bit about the Activity Centres program, what we've heard from you in the first phase of engagement, what our plans are looking like for Broadmeadows, what this means for you, and how to have your say. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A at the end. So I'll hand over to Zoe now, who will run us through the plans.
Thank you, Ellie, and hi everyone. My name is Zoe. I'm a communications and engagement specialist here at the Victorian Planning Authority, and I'm joined by our planning manager, Trish, as well. I'm going to be running you through some information today about the Broadmeadows Activity Centre, and Trish and I will be on hand to help answer any of your questions at the end. So, before I tell you about the Broadmeadows Activity Centre, I'd like to tell you first about the Activity Centre's program. We want to provide all Victorians with the choice of a well-designed home at an affordable price and in a place where they can thrive. And right across Victoria, not enough people have the chance to afford a home that is close to the people and places that they love. We think that's not good enough. The status quo is not an option. So this initiative is about building a future where every Victorian can afford a home that's right for them. We will need about 1.8 million new homes in metropolitan Melbourne by 2051. And making sure that new homes are well located will allow us to maximise use of existing infrastructure and transport. So the starting point is to look for places where more homes can be built and the types of homes we need to suit all kinds of Victorians in all kinds of places. In September last year, the Victorian government released Victoria's Housing Statement, which is a bold plan to tackle Victoria's housing crisis. And there are 39 different initiatives in the housing statement to do that. The Activity Centres program is one of them. So as you can see there on the screen, the statement in the housing statement about the Activity Centres program is that we're working to deliver 60,000 new homes close to services, jobs and public transport in an initial 10 activity centres across Melbourne, of which Broadmeadows is one. So what is the role of the Activity Centres program more broadly? Well, you already heard about enabling 60,000 new homes in the right places, but it's also about guiding investment in the things that are growing community needs, like improved streets and parks and community infrastructure. It's about creating clearer rules about the types of new development that we need. And it's about providing increased certainty to the community about what types of change you might be able to expect in your area. It's also about developing a process for creating clearer and simpler planning rules that can be rolled out across all other activity centres around Melbourne. So what is an activity centre? Pretty central question to begin with. Activity centres are vibrant places where people shop, work, connect with friends and family, and also live. There are more than 130 activity centres across metropolitan Melbourne, and they range in size and service offering. They're generally great places for more homes thanks to their concentration of services, jobs, and transport. So the Activity Centre program will deliver plans for an initial 10 of these centres, which you can see in this map on the screen now. Broadmeadows is just one of them. So activity centres are great places for more housing, but they're also so much more than that. They're great places to work, they're great places for social interaction, and they're also ideal places to shop and access essential daily needs. Some of them are quite small, just local neighbourhood shopping strips, for example, and others are quite large with universities or major shopping malls. The initial 10 centres that we've chosen this year represent a range of activity centres of different sizes and service offerings and locations from inner, middle, and the outer suburbs to understand how the program can work in all of those different settings. So as I said, Broadmeadows is one of our initial 10 activity centres, and we've chosen it because we know it's a great place to live. The shops and parks and community spaces have been places for the multicultural community to come together for generations. And there are lots of local shops and local services in Broadmeadows Central and its immediate surrounds. It's also an employment hub with lots of local jobs and education opportunities, thanks to the TAFE and the council services, as well as the local manufacturing industry. As well as all of that, the Broadmeadows train station connects locals to the city as well as regional Victoria. And all of these things make Broadmeadows a great location for more homes. Back in April this year, we asked the Broadmeadows community what it is that you love about your local area. Thank you to everyone who participated in that earlier phase of engagement and provided feedback, submitted photos, or participated in our community reference group. We heard what you love about Broadmeadows, which includes coming together in the shops and small businesses at Broadmeadows Central, using the green open bushland and visiting Broadmeadows Valley Park, as well as the community atmosphere at the mosques and places of worship and schools and leisure centre. We also heard about the places that are important to you, like Broadmeadows Valley Park, Broadmeadows Town Park, the parklet outside Broadmeadows Library, Piercedale Parade, and the many other parks and open spaces in the area. We've used your feedback to make sure that our draft plans for Broadmeadows respect and strengthen the things that make Broadmeadows unique. A one-size-fits-all approach to planning doesn't reflect the distinctiveness and local characteristics that make each place unique. Our plans will guide how Broadmeadows will slowly change over the next few decades, growing into a more lively, inclusive, and sustainable local community and providing the new homes we need between now and 2051, while also respecting what you've told us about what makes Broadmeadows what it is. So at the very top of our plans is something that we call a vision statement. This is a statement describing the future that we want to see in Broadmeadows, which you can see up on the screen right now. This is a simplified version of the full vision statement, which is in our plans. So our vision for Broadmeadows is that it will be an attractive, safe, and inviting place to live, work, and visit with a thriving local community. New buildings will provide more homes and spaces for businesses and services, which in turn will make Broadmeadows a more vibrant and lively place. Broadmeadows will be better connected with improved walking and cycling links, better and more accessible community services, and open spaces will create a better quality of life for existing and future residents. Our plans also set out objectives for Broadmeadows. These are the things that we're hoping to achieve with our plans. So our objectives for Broadmeadows are to deliver around 3,000 to 4,500 new homes by 2051, to allow the development of between 3 and 12 stories in appropriate places, to support the delivery of new infrastructure, to support high quality architecture and design, to respect the local environment and heritage, to create clear and simple planning controls, to improve walking and cycling connections on larger sites, and to support the delivery of affordable housing. In our plans, we've divided the Broadmeadows Activity Centre into precincts. So this map shows the precincts that we have in our draft plan, and each one of these is based on the types of buildings, homes, and businesses that are already there, as well as the types that we want to see in the future. Each of these precincts then has its own set of rules for heights and setbacks to allow the right level of development for each place. Before I go on, I just want to quickly explain what I mean when I say setbacks. So a setback refers to the distance between a building and the boundary of the property that it's on. So if a building is set back 3 meters, that means that there must be 3 meters of space between the boundary of that property and the wall of the building. So a setback at the ground floor can help create open space. For example, many houses are set back from the front boundary of their property, and that creates a front yard. In other instances, there might be setbacks above a certain height. So for example, anything above the 3rd story has to be set back 3 meters. This means that the 4th story and so on are set further back than the lower stories of the building. And this can be really good for protecting sunlight on the surrounding streets, making the buildings feel less dominant on the street and generally creating a more open and comfortable feeling. A quick note as well on building heights. While our plans set maximum new height limits for buildings in Broadmeadows, there are many other rules about building heights in Broadmeadows as well. So in particular, there are rules that prevent taller buildings underneath the flight paths of nearby airports. And this means many new buildings in Broadmeadows will not be able to reach the maximum heights allowed in our plans. Developers looking to develop a new building will have to make sure their development meets our new rules, as well as any other rules that already exist in Broadmeadows that might impact them. So back to the precincts. As you can see, we have 3 different precincts in the activity centre, as well as a surrounding catchment, which I'll explain in a moment. The first precinct I'd like to talk to you about is the large opportunity sites, which have a maximum building height of 12 stories. These are where there's one large site that is all owned by one single landowner, which therefore has the potential to develop into a new precinct of its own with multiple separate buildings and new walkways and open spaces. In Broadmeadows, many of the large opportunity sites are government-owned land with education campuses or community facilities on them, like the Kangan Institute or the Aquatic Centre. It's likely that these existing facilities will stay where they are. The clear new rules in our plans may be in place for many years. So if the facilities move or redevelop years and years in the future, our new rules would allow them to include building up to 12 stories or would guide what might be developed there in the future. But we're not proposing any changes to those places. This big site right here is a shopping centre precinct, which has also a maximum building height of 12 stories. So similar to large opportunity sites, shopping centre precincts are essentially one large shopping centre site that's all owned by one landowner and that has the potential to develop into a new precinct of its own as well. Again, with multiple buildings, maybe new walkways, while still remaining a shopping destination. It's likely that the existing shopping centre will stay where it is. However, some areas around the shopping centre, such as car parks or unused space, might develop into new buildings, maybe with parking underneath. If the owner of the shopping centre wants to redevelop the centre in the future, our new rules would allow them to include some buildings up to 12 stories, which could accommodate new homes or other commercial uses like offices. Planning rules about heights and setbacks usually only impact the outside edges of a site, which can allow for poor outcomes on really large sites. So when we divided the Broadmeadows Activity Centre, and in fact any of our activity centres, up into precincts, any site that is larger than 5,000 square metres is either a large opportunity site or a shopping centre. So in addition to the rules that we have set about heights and setbacks, these types of precincts have extra rules that might require a developer to create a master plan for each site before they can develop there. Requiring master plans on these sites can encourage a few different things like multiple separated buildings instead of one large building, separation between towers, walking and cycling connections, and new outdoor spaces. As you saw, most of the Broadmeadows Activity Centre consists of these larger sites, which means that there are a lot of opportunities in Broadmeadows to create new walking and cycling connections or small new open spaces, along with any new buildings on these kinds of sites in the future. Onto our other types of precincts. These are Broadmeadows limited sensitivities precincts. These are large commercial or industrial properties that are not quite as large as the opportunity sites that I was talking about before, that still offer a lot of potential to be developed into new homes. Around the Broadmeadows Activity Centre, we have what we're calling the catchment. So the catchment is the area within walking distance of the local jobs, services, and public transport of the centre, but it is not part of the activity centre itself. When working out where the catchment should be, we first looked at places within roughly 800 metres or about a 10-minute walk of the services and transport offerings in the activity centre. And we then excluded areas that are not appropriate to be in the catchment, like places that are separated by a barrier, like a creek or a highway, places with other constraints, like protected industrial areas or protected environmental areas, places that may be the subject of other future plans, like a suburban rail loop precinct or a different nearby activity centre. In Broadmeadows' instance, we also included some additional areas to the east that were proposed for new housing by Hume City Council. Building more homes in the catchment within walking distance of these jobs, services, and transport is a common sense way to create a more lively, inclusive, and sustainable local community. It will also provide an opportunity for more housing diversity, including high-quality social and affordable housing. Our plans will make sure we build the right types of homes in the catchment in the places they fit best. Small apartment buildings between 3 to 6 stories will be built here over time, mixed with townhouses and existing homes. And only the largest blocks of land in the catchment will be able to build up to 5 or 6 stories. Smaller blocks will only be able to build to 3 or 4 stories, and some homes and buildings may not change at all. But our plans don't just propose building heights, setbacks, and locations for more homes. We're also committed to making sure that Broadmeadows remains a great place to live. One of the highlights from our plans is our controls for better main streets. We want the main streets in activity centres to be safe, inviting, and vibrant. So our draft plan includes rules about active frontages, which means on certain streets, new buildings have to have space for shops and businesses on the ground floor with windows facing out onto the streets. This makes the streets feel more safe and inviting, and it also creates more places for local businesses to thrive. We also want important places like our main streets and parks to feel sunny and open. Our plans will make sure that important places stay sunny all year round. And this is usually achieved through things like setbacks, so the upper stories of a building are less visible from the street, creating streets and parks that are more open to the sky. Our plans set specific requirements to make sure important places are never in the shade, even on the shortest day of the year when the sun is lowest in the sky. And our plans also protect these places from negative wind impacts from new buildings. Earlier this year, we asked the Broadmeadows community which streets and parks and open spaces are most important to you, and that's helped guide the places that we've protected from overshadowing in our draft plans. We've also heard from the community that vibrant places with green parks and local community facilities are important to support housing growth. Broadmeadows already offers a lot of community services and infrastructure, including schools, libraries, health centres, and sports facilities, as you can see some of which on this map. But as more people call Broadmeadows home, we want to make sure the Victorian government and your local council can continue to invest in these things. We're exploring options for a new and simplified approach for funding infrastructure. This new approach could provide direct contributions for councils and state government to deliver essential infrastructure. We're currently seeking community input on what types of local infrastructure matter most to you to help us shape what this new funding approach could look like. We have a question about this on our survey on EngageVic. So if there are any specific upgrades to local infrastructure that you would like to see in your area, please do let us know there. We also want to reduce the barriers to building new homes and create more certainty for councils, for developers, and for the communities of the Broadmeadows Activity Centre. So within the Activity Centre, we're introducing a new tool called a deemed to comply standard, which will relate to things like building heights, street wall heights, and setbacks. So if a planning application for a new building meets our new deemed to comply standards, it will benefit from a streamlined planning approval pathway, which could include the removal of things like the notice and review requirements. If a proposed new development within the Broadmeadows Activity Centre follows our clear new rules, the council also cannot use heights or setbacks as a reason to refuse the development. This provides more certainty and can also prevent having to go to VCAT, which saves a lot of time and money. This streamlined new process is designed to improve investment conditions and get more homes built faster, thanks to faster application processing for planning permits, greater certainty about application outcomes, time and money saved in holding costs, as well as reducing costly VCAT hearings. I should clarify, though, that this streamlined new process would only apply to the Broadmeadows Activity Centre and not the catchment. In the catchment areas, normal planning processes, including notice and appeal, will still apply. So how will Broadmeadows change over time? We believe that Broadmeadows will slowly change over the next few decades to provide the new homes we need between now and 2051. We expect that larger and unused blocks of land will develop first because they provide the best opportunities to deliver new homes the soonest. But other areas, like streets with lots of existing homes on smaller blocks, will develop more slowly or may experience very little change at all. So what does this mean for you? Well, first and foremost, our new rules do not require anyone who lives or owns property in Broadmeadows to do anything. Once our plans are in place, landowners in Broadmeadows will have clear new rules to follow if you want to build new homes on your land. Each landowner can decide if and when they want to build new homes, and if you don't want to change anything on your property, you don't have to. But landowners will have more opportunities to build more and different types of homes on their property if they want to. So over time, you may see more homes being built in your neighborhood, and in turn, more people joining your community. This will mean more customers and opportunities for local businesses, and generally a more lively and vibrant community. And most importantly, it also means that more Victorians will have the chance to find a home that is right for them in Broadmeadows. Now, that was an awful lot of information to cover. However, everything I just ran through is also available on our Engage Victoria page, which you can access at engage.vic.gov.au/activity centres and click on the page about Broadmeadows. On that page, we also have our Broadmeadows survey. Your feedback is important, and you have the chance now to have your say. So once you've read about our plans, please visit Engage Victoria, complete our survey, and share your thoughts. You have until the end of the day on Sunday, the 29th of September. Once our survey closes, we will analyse the feedback we've received and we'll use it to facilitate our draft plans with the aim to implement them by the end of this year.